What's one of the most important wars taking place right now? What's one of the biggest battles happening that both you and I are a part of, but that we don't really talk about? We don't hear about it in the news, we don't see it in the papers, and we don't hear about it in social media much. Well, I'll tell you what that is. The battle in the war that I'm talking about is the battle for our minds, or the war for our sanity. We're going to be taking a look at all this coming up next. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Humbled Ministries, where we answer questions, deal with misconceptions, and have conversations about the Christian faith. Today's topic of discussion is the battle in our minds, or the war for our sanity. With everything we have going on in our country and everything we've been seeing happening in our world, whether we talk about kids taking out mass shootings inside of their schools, or we talk about people going into religious organizations, whether a Christian church or a Catholic church, or going into a mosque and shooting the place up because they were against the beliefs of wherever they were, right? People that go into places that we shop at and shooting the place up, targeting a race. Now, why do I bring this up, guys? The reason why I bring this up is because I strongly believe that this started somewhere. And that somewhere where it started is the mind. It's the battle that happens in people's minds when we don't express ourselves of what we've been reading, of propaganda that we've been hearing about, right? When we enclose thoughts into our minds, it absorbs us. Now, the reason why I talk about this stuff that's happening in this world, now I do understand. I do want to acknowledge that I do understand that this isn't something new. We've been seeing evil situations. We've been seeing people do way out evil shootings and killings and all kinds of different degrees since the beginning of time, since the fall of man, right? If we go, as a matter of fact, if we go into the Bible, and we read a section of a letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to the Romans, which is what I'm going to read here, guys. Romans chapter 12, verse 2 is where Paul's talking about being a living sacrifice. But one thing that he points out is the following. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. There we have it, guys. Paul is telling the Romans to not conform to the things of this world, right? So another verse that we can bring up, if we take a look at Galatians chapter 5, verse 17, it says the following. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the spirit, and the spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other so that you are not to do whatever you want, right? So here it's talking about a conflict, right? So if you're watching this and you are not a follower of Christ and you're saying, well, I just have a different point of view towards you. I don't believe in this. Well, let's come to an agreement here. Let's come to common ground. Now, no matter what walk of life you have, whether you are a believer in a higher power, whether you are a follower of Christ like myself, or whether you just have no religion, you define yourself as agnostic or whatever it is that you want to define yourself as, I respect that, but let's come to common ground, right? I think we can all agree that in this world we see good things and bad things. There's such thing as good people and bad people. Where I'm going with this is, if we can come to that agreement that there is good and there is bad in this world, or there's positive and negative forces in the world, right? Well, that's something that continuously happens in our mind. We constantly have a battle between good and evil, or positive or negative. Think about it. Think about it for a minute. Let's set a scenario. You wake up in the morning and you decide that you want to sleep in for an extra 15 minutes, right? Now, your mind is telling you don't do it. If you're late to work one more time, you're going to get written up, or something's going to happen, or your day's going to just be prolonged or whatnot. And you're battling yourself, right? You're battling yourself. And what's the outcome of it, guys? You either sleep in and you maybe show up to work a little bit late, or you get up and you go at your own more time and you go into work and your day continues, right? And so what happens when you do that? When you do that, you say, when you carry out going to work at the proper time, you tell yourself, man, I'm so glad I woke up this morning on time. If I was late, I would have never been able to do this report, or I would have never been able to do this. And the flip side to that, what about if you did sleep in? If you did sleep in and you get to work late and then you get screamed at by your boss or you get in trouble for some reason, what do you say? Man, I knew I should have done that. I knew I should have woken up on time. I should have listened to my alarm and gone to work on time, right? So that itself, guys, it's a battle. It's a battle that happens in our mind. Now, that is nothing compared to what we were talking about earlier about the evil stuff that we see happen in the world, or these acts of rage or anger, or these killings that we've been seeing and situations that we've seen across the world. But it is a battle that happens in our mind, guys. It's something that we need to talk about. And that's the reason why I made this video. The reason why I made this video is to talk about the battle in our minds, right? Now, if we take a look at the people that they talk to after these situations happen, they go speak to the neighbors of the people that carried out these events, and it doesn't happen on all occasion, guys, but a lot of the times they talk to familiar faces, neighbors or family members, and when they ask them why do they think they did it, they come with a response that says, man, I never saw that coming from this person. This person was a great neighbor, great son, a great daughter. I would have never expected that from them, right? Or people that end up taking up their own lives, or taking out their own lives, right? A lot of the times when we talk to the people that are around them or that knew them, they don't know why they did it. There's cases, and I know in my life, I've had friends who have taken their own lives, and it's sad. It's sad because if you look at it and you think about it, there's been times where they've told me, man, this guy took his life, and I go, wow, why? This guy had it all together. He had a great job. He had a great family. He always was happy. He could do whatever he wanted to. He was strong in faith, whatever you want to talk about, but they end up taking their lives. Why? Because of a battle that happens in the mind, a war that happens in our mind. So what I want to encourage us, guys, the reason why I made this video is to encourage us to break down that wall that you have in your mind. So how do we do that? Well, one thing that I can tell you is I myself have been through a lot of mental battles in my past. Now, when we come to a video where I'll share my testimony with you guys, you'll be able to see more of what I'm talking about there. But there's been times where I've just been feeling alone, or feeling depressed or anxious, or whatever you may have, right? And what happens a lot of the times when we feel these emotions, guys, we hold it in. We hold it in, whether we say, oh, it's because, I'm a man and I need to just, be the leader here, or I'm the woman here. I have to make sure that I take care of my kids. I can't show weakness. Well, whether that's true or not, and you obviously don't want to show everybody what you're going through, but one thing I do want to encourage us, guys, and I say us because I bring myself into this topic, is find somebody, a family member, a best friend, somebody that you can come to and say, hey, you know what? I've been thinking about stuff, and I really trust you. I really want to have a relationship with you where I can speak to you what's going on in my mind, and vice versa. Somebody that you can be able to hear out and you can speak to about the battle that's happening in your mind. Why do I want to encourage us to do that, guys? Because that can take us down a road where we'll be able to break down those walls, those barriers that we have in our mind that causes anxiety, that causes fear, that causes us to have uncomfortable days, depression, and even health problems that come from depression and anxiety, right? Now, another thing I want to point out, guys, I do want to acknowledge that I do understand that there is also such thing as mental disabilities, or, chemical imbalances in the mind, and that some people need to take medication for it. And I respect that as well. I respect that there is people that just can't, deal without their medication because of chemical imbalances, right? But what I'm talking about here, guys, if you're well and able, and even if you are going through something, find somebody. The greatest medicine that we can have is talking to somebody about our problems, talking to somebody about what's going on in our mind, right? There's a time where I was dealing with all that stuff like I was talking about, and There is nothing like speaking to somebody and venting out what's going on, and you feel like $1,000,000 after you vent out, right? So I encourage us, guys. I encourage us to find somebody near you. Let's break down these walls together, guys. Let's find people around us that we can be accountable to and who we can keep accountable. I know I have friends that I do that with. I have a friend who I talk to almost every single day, and we call each other just to say, hey, this is what I'm going through right now. Pray for me on this. And, hey, what about you? How's your day been like? And we just share what's going on in our day to day, right? And that, I can't tell you how much I appreciate my brothers that I have that relationship with. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. The Bible says iron sharpens iron, and that's the way iron sharpens iron. Now, what's another way that we can impact this situation that we have of the battle in the mind in our society? Well, I'll tell you guys, there's nothing like doing random acts of kindness. Don't just do it to do it. Do it out of your heart. Think about it. People that are walking around you, you never know whose Armageddon it is. That's one thing I like to think about and talk about with people is you don't know whose Armageddon it is. And what I mean by that is you don't know what people are going through in their life. And that's something that we also got to break down, guys. A lot of the times we speak to people and they ask us, hey, how are you doing? And we say, oh, I'm doing great. Everything is good. Work is good. Life is good. Everything. But guys, is it always really good? Or do we just not want to seem vulnerable to people? Or do we just want to not let people know what we're going through? And that's what I'm talking about, guys. The battle in our minds. We have to break down the battle in our minds. We have to speak about what's going on in our minds. Because if not, we're just walking around with minds of frustration. We're walking around with all this frustration and it's gathered in the group, right? So I encourage you guys to find somebody. Now, guys, if you don't have anybody that you can speak to and anybody that you can reach out to, well, guys, if you guys want to shoot me an email, feel free to shoot me an email. I would love to talk to you. I would love to share, things that I've been through myself and how it's helped me and how I've been able to cope with anxiety, with fear, with depression, with drug addiction, guys. Anything you need, feel free to email me. My email is humbledministries1411@gmail.com. Once again, that's humbledministries1411@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. Would love to talk to you guys. Well, we talked about a lot, guys. We had a lot of discussion about a lot of different topics, but it all leads to one place, guys. So to wrap it up, what I'm talking about here, guys, and the reason for this video is breaking down those walls of the battle that's happening in your mind, that's happening in our minds. So I encourage us to find somebody who you can speak to, find somebody who you can trust, and start building relationship. And if you don't have that somebody now, like I said, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you and leave some comments down below. Let's start a conversation down below. Use this comment section under my video for you guys to talk to each other, for you guys to be able to communicate with each other and maybe find a friend on there. And if you have somebody who you say, well, I think it might be this person, but I'm not sure if I'm fully there to just share what's going on in my mind with them, well, start somewhere. Start building that relationship. I know that with the friends that I have that I speak to about the things that happen in my mind, it didn't just start from one day just saying, hey, you know what? I want to tell you what's going on in my mind. No, it started off with just sharing life, having conversations here and there, checking in with each other. And I encourage you to do the same, guys. Find somebody who you can talk to. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you liked this video. I hope we can get what we talked about here and put it into action, put it into play. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe. By you subscribing and hitting that bell icon and clicking that bell icon, what happens is you will be notified when we make new videos. You will get a push notification where we make new videos. Well, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on another episode of Humbled Ministries. Now, guys, besides finding somebody, right, finding that somebody you can speak to, there's one other person, the most important person who you need to start talking to. The person who cares most about what's going on in your mind more than anybody walking this planet, and that's Christ himself. God wants to know what's going on in your mind, what your troubles are, what your anxieties are, what your fears are, what's going on in your mind, your mental barriers. Cast all that onto Christ. Give it all, leave it all at the cross, and allow Him to cleanse your mind from all the stuff that's going on there. Now, the Bible in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verses 6 through 7, it says, worry about nothing, instead pray about everything. Now, guys, I'm not just throwing Bible verses that I have memorized at you. This is something that I have put into practice into my life. This is something that has helped me out when it comes to prayer, right? Now, prayer, what is prayer? Prayer is just you talking to God, saying, hey, God, today this is what I'm dealing with. My mind is frustrated right now. This is what my situation is. This is what I fear is going to happen. Help me in this situation. And if you've never done that, maybe now is the time. Maybe now is the time for you to speak to God and let Him know what your troubles are. Find a quiet place, speak to Him. Now, if you're unsure about what this means, feel free again to reach out to me and ask me anything you need to ask. I'm here to help as well, guys. Cast all your fears onto Christ.